Can the master distiller of Four Roses, Brent Elliott, identify his own products in a blind sampling? Well, if you want to find out, stick around. All right, folks, here we are in the Sensory Lab at Four Roses Distillery with the man himself, Brent Elliott, and we are going to do a blind tasting of all Four Roses products. We got some weird stuff here. So before we get started, let the people know who you are. So how many years have you been with the distillery?
16, almost 17 now. Started in 05.
Wow, and you've been the master distiller since 15?
15, yeah.
2015? Very nice. And what is your favorite part of the job? Because I asked you this last time, and I'm curious, is that still resonating in your mind?
I can't remember what I answered last time, but I was, depending on my mood that day, it was either working with the liquid itself or talking to people about it.
Yeah.
Meeting people and...
Because you had said, like, one of the creative things that you get to do is creating the limited edition every year, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, that's the only product that you put out that could have all 10 recipes in it, right?
Yes, well, the Four Roses Bourbon does typically have all 10.
Oh, does it?
But that's the only one that is blended not to a standard. That's the chance to be creative.
Right,
Because it could be anything. Actually, it's supposed to be different from years past.
Right.
So the others, my job is to make sure that they're consistent. So the flavor profile has been established.
Right. But the limited edition, you're just trying to make it taste as good as you can.
Exactly.
Right.
To make it great and make it different.
So I've noticed that when people get to this level, master distiller of a major international brand, the ones that flame out tend to get bored because they want more like expression. They want to be able to do more. So having this project every year that you get to, kind of pour your heart into and do the very best that you can, I think that probably helps keep it fresh, right?
Oh, yeah, very much so.
So given that you get to do that every year, do you think that if I gave you 3 Four Roses products from vastly different time periods that you'd be able to figure out which was which blind?
I should hope so.
I would hope so too.
Still not very vibrant.
No, not very vibrant at all.
Trying to be nice here.
Trying to be nice. So what we have here in front of us, this could be one of 3 bottles. Okay, so we've got a current release of Four Roses Bourbon, which is 80 proof. Okay. The second option in one of these glasses will be what I am told by Ernie Escontrias, who's supposed to be the Four Roses expert. So if somebody out there knows that this is not true information, don't get mad at me, because he's the one that told me that this is the first ever commercially produced Four Roses single barrel that was Japan only, okay? And it's from 1994. So you could be tasting this Japan only Four Roses, but you might be tasting this third bottle. This bottle is from 1938, specifically around October or November. So this is one of my most exciting podcasts I've ever done. A viewer reached out to me, said, hey, I found these 4 bottles underneath the floorboards of a house that's being demolished in Los Angeles. They're going to build a new building. And he was actually a collector of antique lighters. And he said, I don't normally mess with bottles, but I've watched your podcast, and do you think that, you could find somebody who wants any of these? And I said, well, yeah, me. So we ended up going through a process to try and figure out what they were worth, because I had no idea what they were worth. And I reached out to Brad Bonds at Revival Spirits up in Covington, Kentucky. And he says, I normally sell these for around $1,250. So when I buy them, I pay about half that. So I offered the guy $625 for the 4 bottles, gave him $2,500, got off 4 bottles. One of them did not have a box. And so we opened that one for the podcast. So you might be drinking this one. But if you're curious about this bottle and you're watching at home, you should click the link below. because this podcast was super interesting, the way that this bottle was dated. And after I came in possession of it, the guy reached back out to me and he said, hey, I had reached out to Four Roses too, and I just hadn't heard anything. And they said that they want the bottles. And I said, tell them I will give them one for the display case. And so before I leave today, we are going to donate this box and bottle for the display case in the new beautiful visitor center. So you definitely want to come check that out. You'll be able to see this bottle here. They also have several other renditions of this bottle and box. And part of why I'm in love with this is because you guys had a medicinal permit during Prohibition.
That's right. We were one of six distilleries that were allowed to sell for medicinal purposes only.
Yeah, and so this box was part of what led the U.S. out of the great failure of Prohibition, because people were afraid that alcohol could be tampered with between the producer by the time it made it to the consumer. And Four Roses was extremely innovative in creating packaging that would prevent any tampering. And this patent for this tamper-proof box that says sealed for safety was issued October 15th, 1929. What is that, 4 years before Prohibition ended? Mm-hmm. So this box was being used for medicinal whiskey back during Prohibition, and they continued its use all the way through 1938, at least, whenever this bottle was released. So you could be tasting any of those three. So do you want to taste the other two before you venture a guess? I think we probably should. Let's smell the second one up. Feel prepared to call it?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Okay.
What's what here?
All right, let's do it.
Oh, well, hello there, you fellow bourbon lovers, you. I don't know why I'm talking like that. Anyways, I want to invite you over to the bourbonrealtalk.com store today. After the show, go check it out. We've got new merch that's just hit the shop. We've got travel cases for your wee glens and your big glens. We've got toppers for your glens as well. We've got the rocks glasses that we offer now and all the other cool merch that you're used to seeing there. So go check it out after the show and support the channel by checking out our store and picking up a couple things and getting them on your doorstep a few days later. We can't wait for you to check out all the new merch that we've got to offer now at bourbonrealtalk.com.
What do you got?
Well, that first one tastes like about a 1938 whiskey.
You're correct, sir.
Yeah, and you can tell I'm just looking at that bottle. I think it was much evaporated when you got it, right?
Actually, the fill level wasn't too bad. I mean, it was below the shoulder, but it wasn't too bad. But a lot of people who saw the video who came over to my house were like, hey, can I try it? And I'm like, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, I saw the video too, and I think it was a little fuller than that.
Yeah. Well, I opened it on there, but I might be getting confused too because there were several of them. But yes, you are correct. That is the 1938. And since we are here in the Century Lab, we were able to test the proof, and it was originally bottled at 90 proof, and it has made its way all the way down to, what was it, 62?
64.
64 proof. And that is very interesting because what that tells us is that a lot of the change in the flavor of your whiskey may actually be from evaporative loss of ethanol. Is that fair to say?
I think it throws everything out of balance.
Sure.
You start losing ethanol, a little bit of water. What's left in there is concentrated. So you get a concentration of all those non-volatile compounds. And then I think the volatile compounds that do give it that vibrant characteristic or the complexity, a lot of those are long gone.
Right.
After nearly 100 years in the bottle.
Right.
Those have escaped, slowly, but with that much time.
Right. It's plenty of time for it to happen.
Yeah.
And so that's why I try to encourage people. It's okay for you to open your nice bottles. You want to protect them as much as you can, but they're not going to change as quickly as you might think that they would. And even if the bottle's closed, it's still going to change in 80 years.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
it's hard to prevent that.
There's a big difference between, 64 proof and 90 proof for everybody. So now how about this guy, this first ever Four Roses single barrel? You called it. What I get on these bottles, once they're more than 20 or 30 years old, even if they were stored properly, and I will tell y'all at home, we tested the proof on this one, and it was dead on.
Yeah, it hadn't evaporated.
We had almost no ethanol loss. It was within a quarter of a percent, I think. But I always get a little bit of a leathery kind of note. Any idea where that comes from?
I don't know. I've wondered that too. I get that, and also get sort of a sweet caramel flavor. And I get caramel new whiskey too.
Right.
But it's a different kind of, it's more cloying and just a little bit oxidized.
Yeah.
I get that.
You know what it tastes like to me is port. You know how they oxidize ports and it gets that weird, and it's almost a smoky sweet or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a unique signature flavor that I get with a lot of Dusties.
I would call it oxidized sweetness. There's something about it that gives it a different kind of sweet, and it's universal across brands. It's you can have a bottle from the 70s from this producer and that producer, which would have tasted completely different. But you get them in today, and they both have this sweet, leathery, smoky kind of thing going on. And
I've wondered about that. I don't know where that comes from. I don't know what that reaction is. But it's obviously something. You see it across the board. And I've often wondered, is that a function of it being in the bottle? Is it something from the aging, or is it something about how it was produced then? And, it's hard to really answer that. You can't really set up an experiment for that.
So if we ran it through a gas spectrometer or something, would we see information that would help us to understand it?
Yeah, you could, whether you could derive anything from that data or not, we could analyze that and figure out exactly what was in it, and maybe even pinpoint what those flavors or what those compounds that are creating those flavors are. But to really figure out if they evolved over time, it could probably be done, but it'd be a pretty big study.
Right.
Interesting.
Right. You'd have to have a lot of scientific equipment.
Yeah.
may have to rent a lab. All right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to get together and taste all of these up.
That's fascinating.
We're going to head on over to the visitor center and get this donated, which I'm very excited about. And I will go ahead and tell everybody at home, if this is the first time that you've watched the channel, I'd love to explain to you what the show philosophy is. At Bourbon Real Talk, we're about bringing people together around whiskey. Whiskey has an amazing connective power to bring people together of all walks of life. And that's something that's very important to me, because in 2014, I lost my younger brother to suicide. And I wanted to find a way to help people get connected so that they didn't feel alone the way that my brother did when he made that decision. And at the same time, I was getting more involved in the whiskey enthusiast world. And I started to see people of, different backgrounds get together and connect around the spirit. And it made me realize that if I can get you connected to whiskey, whiskey will do the rest of the job and get you connected to other people so that you don't feel alone the way that my brother did. There is an underbelly, though, to the whiskey enthusiast world. There's a lot of trolls out there that say hateful things online, which caused us to end up creating a new whiskey community called Bourbon Real Talk Community. And we don't allow any troll-like behavior in there. But it also, in addition to making me realize I needed to create a space for people that were wanting real civil discourse, it made me realize that if that troll can say hateful things to you online, there's nothing that keeps me from loving you. And that's why I end every podcast the same way, and that's this. If you woke up this morning and you're unsure whether or not anyone loves you, just know that I love you, and I'll see you next time on Bourbon Real Talk. A whiskey troll is a person who seeks negative attention and uses contrarian attitudes to derail civil discussion in online forums. They communicate in ways they never would face-to-face because they're keyboard warriors. Their only goal is to make other people feel inferior.
Hey guys, I'm new here. I just got my first Blanton's.
And trust me, you probably paid way too much.
I don't care much about the Blantons, but nice.
There's no way that she didn't buy that at secondary. Idiot.
Oh, I know how you got that bottle.
So, are you sick and tired of the whiskey trolls running your fun online? Well, that's why we started Bourbon Real Talk Community. Congratulations. Let me know what you think when you open it up.
Hey, welcome to the group. Let me send you over a sample of Blanton's Gold and Straight from the Barrel. See how you like those.
I remember back to my first bottle of Blanton's. It was the birthday to my son, and we enjoy it every year on his birthday. Congrats.
So if you're looking to connect with some people online who aren't, head over to facebook.com and join Bourbon Real Talk community today.